gentlemen, boys and girls,
Are you ready?
Talking Junk in the... Welcome to Talking Junk. Welcome to Talking Junk. Welcome to Talking Junk. Welcome to Talking Junk.
Welcome to Talking Junk. I'm your host, Jason, back again with my co-host,
Hey, how's it
Talon.
going?
How's everything tonight?
Hey, you know
How you
what,
doing
man?
over there on the west side?
I'm doing pretty good out here. It's actually been raining a lot, which has been wonderful because that means we'll have a nice green spring over here. And then also just spearheading that Dogecoin, man. You know, hashtag Dogecoin, buy Dogecoin, all of that. So, you know, we're having a good time. Having a good time.
Why don't you introduce our guest tonight?
Our guest tonight, well, tonight is the wonderful Natsune from all the way out from Tokyo, joining us here live on Talking Junk, and we're going to be interviewing her and her show. We're going to be talking about her as a model, as an author, all of that. Get to know her real well.
Perfect.
How you doing tonight, Natsune?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
The pleasure's all ours.
Perfect.
So before we get started, why don't you tell the Junkers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Natsune Oki. I'm an author of The Game of Self-Domination. Hold on, my book. Let me show you my book real quick. Oops, sorry about that. So this is my book, The Game of Self-Domination. It's available on Amazon and my website. In this book, I talk about how one can create mental transformation in 3 different phases. Should I go on about this, or should we come back?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us a little
It's
bit.
up to you. Whatever you want to talk about.
Tell us enough so that we want to buy the book.
So this book is, so as I said, it talks about how one can create mental transformation in 3 different phases. I guess I should give you a little bit background so that I can kind of give you more background of where I come from.
Okay.
Yeah, take us back to the beginning.
So right now, so that's 2 things I do, right? Life Up Education TV as a media, which talks about basically creating inspiration, really. That's all about it. And then within the same domain, I have the book, The Game of Self-Domination. And I actually have a business agency in Tokyo that helps Japanese companies launch and expand businesses in America.
Okay.
I do that by providing international project management services. So those are the 2 main things that I do right now. And as far as it goes, let me tell you, it's a very interesting. So, like I said, I talk about the 3 different phases, right? The first phase I talk about is it's all about emotion. Like there's no logic, fuck logic, just commit, right? Like you need to build enough emotion to the point where you're just like, I have to do this regardless of whatever happens to me. And for you to come to that point, you need to have a desperation and also inspiration. Desperation in a sense that you have to be like this is it. Like I can't live like this anymore. Like I gotta change. I have no other excuse. Like I have no option. But inspiration in a sense that you still need to believe that whatever you are trying to achieve is possible to achieve. Because if all you look at is desperation, no one ever gonna try changing it, right? Because it's so depressing. So you need to have both elements. And basically, I found in my book the first phase in a sense, in a way that trigger people's emotion. So I give you different life stories. I give you different framework to think about life. I give you different questions. I give you different quotes. So that's all about first phase. And second phase, here it comes the most difficult and more important phase, because we're going to start talking about how to persevere once you commit to a dream. And here I start talking about practicality. So importance of self-awareness, you need to really understand what who you're about, what you like to do. Am I going too long?
No, no,
This is
Not
all
at
about
all.
you.
So self-awareness, like I'm a very like philosophical person. So I borrowed this thinking from ancient Greek philosophers, the Western philosophy thinking, and also I combined that with Eastern philosophy thinking from a concept called ikigai, which is basically a Japanese philosophical term explaining what life should be or what life is, or what one's purpose of life could mean possibly. So I basically combine all that and then give you the framework to really think about who you are to align yourself with your self-awareness. And then also I talk about Zen approach to life. So, you ain't shit, like you don't mean anything. And failures, whenever you meet them, like it doesn't mean anything. Like you're nobody. Therefore, you don't even have to care about that. And then the thing is, we attach meaning to failures. We attach meaning to rejections and adversities. But that's your emotional thinking doing it. If you approach things with the practicality, if you approach things with the logical thinking, then you actually kind of understand that things are never about you. And life just happens as they are. And you don't necessarily have to have any meaning to it. So that's kind of the direction I dive into during the second phase to really redefine the definition of failures. So there I talk about self-awareness, self-talk, and also like Zen approach. And also coming from business background, I also extracted this method. I call it Life Up Method, where you can, I have this like 5 different business thoughts that I borrowed from one Italian engineer, the 2 global consulting firm. The third one is from automotive industry from Japan. They have this like a business strategy that they apply when they produce cars and put them together from the parts. And then the 4th one comes from British economist, and then the 5th one comes from U.S. president, 34th U.S. president. So each of these people had this idea that they were using to implement in the business. So I basically turned them into life strategy, and then I put it out in a way that you can use it into life strategy. So that's also included. So basically, my point for doing that is, so this is all great, right? Like I'm giving you step by step. You can take, and then now we're talking about like self-awareness. We're talking about how to persevere during the hard time. Let's also talk about like practical standpoint, like how can you be efficient, how can you be organized in the in the way you do things. So that's kind of the point that I want to give during the second phase. And then the third phase, finally I get to the point where I talk about so we've been talking a lot about let's redefine failures, but there's not enough conversation around let's redefine success around enough.
I definitely agree with that.
Yes, so I wanted to really dig into that and really just to summarize it, like fuck it, like live, like regardless of whatever you achieve, regardless of like how fucked up you get, like nothing will permanently make you anywhere, like any state. It's all comes here. Like you have to want to live happily, and that's kind of the conclusion toward the end.
Okay.
Well, what led you to even writing this book?
What was that?
What led you to even writing this book?
Yeah, so I wanted to like be a media person, and that was because I had that idea that I really wanted to push. And coming from business background, once again, like I understand the practicality of the media, which is like I want to expect that people consume my content only on a video form, but in reality, it doesn't work like that. Like if I want to reach to people who read, I have to read them. Like I have to be in a form where people can read. So I wasn't like, I want to be older. Like, no, it didn't happen like that. I was like, oh, what can I do? How, what are the things that make sense for me to do, right? Like for me to promote my media. So that's kind of how the idea of the book came out.
Okay. So if I'm understanding you correctly, it seems like you're applying your knowledge of being in business where I guess stereotypically it can be considered cutthroat, and that you would do things that, oh, why would you do that to a person? But you have the term, it's just business, where it's not personal, it's just a wise business move. It allows you to do things and move and grow in a manner that objectively some people who don't understand how business works might take the emotional weight and say that's wrong. However, it seems like you're taking that ability you gain by being in business and showing people, well, no, you can actually take that, put it in your own life, and get success that you would find in business by kind of reducing the emotional reactions that we have towards things and actually applying a logical look at it and standing back and being objective, as opposed to being, why me? Why is it always happening to me? Maybe it's not always happening to you. It's always happening, but it's not happening to you. And it can kind of allow you to not be depressed, and then reassess and then grow and build from there. Am I hearing you correctly in that regard?
For sure. Because one thing I noticed is like, yes, I think what I like about business is not necessarily money at all. Actually, I'm horrible at making money, actually, to be honest with you. But because I feel bad for like asking for money. But what I like about business is the free competition, because free competition creates this environment where losers lose. Like losers, as in like if your mindset is not correct, like you are in a very vulnerable position, you might lose. Like the risk is very high. Versus like in a free competition environment, like the winner can also win. Like it's all about mindset, right? So that's the biggest thing that I love about business is the free competition. And something I noticed actually is that like in order for you to not suffer, I notice it's about caring for the greater purpose, bigger than you. I think that's where a lot of people struggle. Like you said, like emotional reaction, right? Like those always come because you're so stuck in your head and you think you are like the center of the universe. But in reality, if you look at the world, like you are such a tiny part, like your existence. So I'm a very philosophical person. So maybe
no, you're very right though. You're very right though. If you think about it on a scale of the Earth, then you have to think about it on a scale of the universe, which makes you even more minuscule. So, and to think we're the only people out here it just makes us even more naive, conceited.
Exactly. And the thing is, like 2 generations from now, people probably not gonna even know you, like remember what you did. Like I have no idea what my great grandparents did for their work. Like I have no idea, right? I mean, I wish I could.
You know what? Come to think of it, I don't know what my great grandparents did either.
Like we feel like we're such a big deal while we're here because we're living it, but if we take ourselves a little bit out of the picture and really look at the macro picture, like we're nobody. And but so that could be a little bit misleading narration that I pushed a lot. But because the only reason I push this is because I want to encourage people to be like not take life too seriously. Like that's the only reason. Not to say like you don't mean anything. Not to say like you know what I mean. Like I don't need to discourage people by saying this, but
loosen the fuck up a little bit.
Yeah, like fuck up. Like that's my point. And then like you'll be fine. Like that's only the reason I'm pushing it. But another interesting way to look at it, actually, I have this another story that I often share, which is so basically today we are human today, right? But
well, I hope I'm human tomorrow too.
We're gonna be alien by tomorrow. But
maybe. Who said I'm not an alien today?
Show me a flag so that we can tell. Hopefully it's red. But
it's blue.
But that's kind of cool too. So the story that I heard, which is really wild and it's really crazy, is that so I can't know exact time frame of how everything happened, but basically, let's see, before dinosaur even existed, there was tiny bacteria. Like the Earth wasn't capable of having like complicated livings, like multicellular livings, right? So at that time, the Earth only had like tiny bacteria, and there wasn't oxygen either. Like we couldn't live like biologically. But so billions of years passed, and these tiny bacteria, like putting in the hard work of basically converting what was already existed as element, and then turning them into oxygen form, and then ozone layer started forming, and then finally you have oxygen, like actual oxygen that people and more complicated living can exist, like in the earth, right? So, but at that time, that these tiny bacteria, I don't think they were thinking one day I'm gonna create human. Like this is why I'm doing exactly right. Like, but if we take this like one tiny bacteria, like we would have no idea like where these bacteria would lead to today, because literally. Because these bacteria still exist today in vegetables, literally, like some part of us is these bacteria today. So these bacteria literally made us. Like these bacteria literally turned the earth habitable for humans, and then even created humankind, like, or even played the supporting role to create the humankind. And when we think about that, like we have no idea, like 100 million. So this was part. I can't remember exact number, but it must be like billions of years ago. But so dinosaur, for example, they existed 165 million years. Okay, so less than those like bacteria story. So basically, we're talking about like way far out. Like, do we have any idea what we are doing, the consequence of us, each individual living, trying to survive and live, like what kind of impact do we have in that far out future? Like we have no idea, right? And that's just how it should be. And I think it's really interesting if you think about it, like as much as you don't mean shit to anything, like as much as the universe is way bigger than you, at the same time, like if we think about like 100 million years span of future, we really have no idea. We might be part of like creating a bigger, or not even necessarily bigger, but like another kind of like living form or something like that, right? Like converting into another form of
another kind of organism or something.
Yeah. So if we think about it, like as much as yes, like you don't mean shit, right? At the same time, like we really can't expect what's gonna happen in the future, and what you're doing today, like very much could affect how the future is gonna form, like in the future.
Oh yeah, almost like the butterfly effect.
Yep.
So that's another story I want to share, because usually if I tell people like, oh, you don't mean shit, like they'll be like, oh shit, like should I just end it, like should I just like right? So that's not what I want to say at all. Like I actually want to encourage people, like because you don't mean shit, like that means that you can fuck up anytime you want, like. And then at the same time, like I give you this another supporting story so that you can exactly know that it might not feel like you mean something, but you could mean greatly in the future. Like I'm talking about like millions of years later.
There's the quote, a wise man knows he knows nothing. And I feel like that's kind of similar to what you're saying here. Like the fact that you are an insignificant piece of shit actually doesn't mean anything more than that it should humble you and how you act and proceed in life. It doesn't mean that what you do does not matter. It just means that you need to not think that everything that you do is the only thing that matters. It's a perspective change. And if anything, it's a jolt. And I like the fact that you said, like you don't mean shit. Because anybody who, if they're not already in a bad place, they're going to take that offensively and just go, excuse me. But if you let them know, it's like, I'm not saying you're a piece of shit. I'm just saying if you look in the grandiose scientific aspect of things, your individual being is nothing. But when you take that into account and realize how your actions can affect millions of other people potentially, then you have to go and think, like you were saying, well, what about our actions as a whole for the next generation and future generations, and then millions of years from now? What are we doing? Like, what are we actually progeniting, if that's a word, for our own species? And I feel like as long as we're so consumed in thinking it's me, and thinking that we're not pieces of shit, we're kind of heading towards a wall. But once we realize that as an individual, I kind of don't mean much, but as a whole, that's kind of where the value comes in. I think that's what could cause like a nice positive change in how people approach life in general. Because I think it's the fact that we think that everything is so important and everything is about me, and you have to think about me. That's what makes depression so difficult to get out of, because then not only is everything on your shoulders, but then everything you failed is your fault. It's not because of the world, it's not because of external factors, it's because of you. And so you can't climb out of that. But once you realize, like, no, I'm just a blip and a part of this whole grand scheme, and I have my part, and that matters. So I got to do my part. But the fact that that happened to me doesn't mean that it's because of me. I have to continue to push forward, deal with things, because everybody has stuff that they have to deal with. Everybody's going to have bullshit and all of that. It's remembering that you're not the only one, and that you can keep progressing. That is important. And I think it was, I might be wrong here, it might have been Immanuel Kant who talked about depression and suicide, and how he wasn't an advocate, because to him, in order to commit suicide, one has to believe that they are in the absolute worst position than any other person on the planet, and it can't get worse than what they're experiencing. And there's really no way for that to be true. And I feel like that's a little more of a harsher aspect of looking like, okay, so I'm insignificant and things are happening to me, but different things are happening to people that are arguably worse. I like your approach. It's in your face. It's not so deep as like, well, you shouldn't fucking kill yourself because it's not that bad. No. That's a bit far. But saying you're a piece of shit, I feel like that rattles the cage enough to where people are like, well, what do you mean by that? So I like that. I like your integration of business approach and then philosophy to help people kind of rebuild their own.
See, but she's not just saying she's a piece of shit or you're a piece of shit. She's saying we're all we're all nothing.
Which means we're all on the level.
Just a turd in the bucket.
But like, this is, you said it beautifully. Like, I agree with you, and that's exactly the message I want to push out there. And this is why exactly, like, I can't deal with snobs. Like, I can't deal with people who are like,
who can? Over here we call them Karens.
Karens. Where did that start? Like, I've heard of it many times. Was it like social media?
Yeah. Oh, it's always social media. Social media makes everything now.
Yeah. Was it start from TikTok or something else?
I'm not sure.
Oh.
We'll probably have to look that up. China, can you see if you can pull that up for us if you can? If while she's trying to find that, what is the snobbiest experience you've had so far in life?
Me?
Yeah, there has to be something that put a toll on you that made you feel this way about people.
Right. Charles Bukowski. How I can't pronounce his last name.
Bukowski.
Yeah. So he has this saying where people actually told me he was like really depressive, like alcoholic person. So
sounds like everybody over here in America.
Especially American writers.
So there's this quote, basically, well, he's thinking, where he says, like, if you want to go in, like, you should go all in, right? Like that kind of thing. And I think without knowing that concept, like, I always felt like I was that person. Like, I always wanted to fail on my own term, right? So I almost got kicked out from my high school. I was such a failure in high school system here in Japan.
You would have fit in just right over here in the public school system.
I think so. I really wish I was like in American high school system. But anyway, so I just wanted to go all in. Like, that's always been my personality. So I have to be honest with you. I have also been guilty of that, like, snobbiness, right? Like, I lived in Miami at one point in my life, and I guess I was really young, and I still, like, went into that, like social media, like influencer life, like I started making friends in the influencer community, and they were like, oh, like followers, like you know what I mean, like and then I bought into it, like, and then the thing is, you just don't know if you don't experience something. You can hear and collect information from others and then try to believe in it, but if you don't actually experience it, like you really don't have no idea if you actually like it or not, right? And for my case, I really noticed that it ain't it, like it wasn't for me, right? So from that point, like my realization just became so much real because I've actually experienced it. But so the snobbiness, one experience I have to give because of it is, I must still say I was also guilty of it at some point of my life. And then another experience I would share is, like, after being through that, I have a lot of opportunity with, like, meeting with, like, investors, like VC firms here in Japan, because I do business in that area sometimes. And then these people, like, startup owners always want to connect with them, right? And like they're so fancy, and it's okay. Like I have great respect for them, but they're like so fancy. They just think like there's just a god, right? And for me, kind of like, that's a little bit, we have this word in Japanese, we say dasai. So basically that's to say, like, there's no direct translation for it, dasai. But it's kind of like, for me, what matters is who you are today. Like, I have a great respect for your achievement, everything you've been through, not because of the status, but because of the work, like because of your dedication, hard work, everything that you sacrifice, everything that you put in to get to where you are, what you've been through. Like, those are the things that I value, because that became your character. That became your
what you give is what you get. What you give is what you get.
Mm-hmm. And so I have a great respect for it, but I don't want people to expect, just because you're an investor, I would be like, oh, like, kissing ass, because I don't value it. Like, you investor, okay, that's it. Like, practically, I understand you are, that's it. Don't expect me to respect you. I respect your achievement in a sense that you put in so much work,
Where'd that go?
so much, but that's it. Like, does it make sense?
So, dasai, DASAI, dasai.
That's right.
Okay, so that actually sounds like how I treat the way I go into the workspace. I personally, in my mind, I don't work for anybody. I've come to a place to where I agree to work with you. And if you have a higher status than me, I respect that status because you put in the work to get to that point. And that's why I listen to you and I take your authority. Not because you're higher than me. You are on the same level as me, but I respect that you've done more work than I have. So because of that, it allows, at least for me, I think it's really helpful to allow people.
There it is, right there.
Work. Huh? Oh, there we go. Let me read this out real quick then for the people out there. Karen is a pejorative slang.
No, you can't read it like that. You can't read it like that. You gotta
bring it. I gotta do it. You want me to do it in an accent? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. You gotta do it in a way we're gonna understand you.
All right.
By
I got
God.
you. All right. So Karen is a pejorative slang term for an obnoxious, angry, entitled, and often racist middle-aged white woman who uses her privilege to get her way or police other people's behaviors. Don't be a Karen.
Don't be a Karen.
I feel bad for people whose name is Karen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is unfortunate for people named Karen, but let's be honest, it's not the most beautiful name. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, I think if anything, it's like, all right, well, maybe I'll go with my middle name. That's why we have middle names. I feel like
it just makes it makes it that much enjoyable when it's fitting to see a Karen who's actually named Karen.
Yeah.
I hope my name doesn't have any negative association like somewhere as a slang.
Not that I know.
Not that I don't think so.
Mine's is a sci-fi serial killer. So,
I I want to say there might be a character in Dead or Alive, the fighting game, that's named Natsune, but I'm not sure. That might be
I'm
the
pretty
closest.
sure it's with an M instead of an N. Natsume instead
Oh,
of
maybe.
Natsume.
See, yeah, maybe you might be good. You might be the only one we're seeing out here.
You know, there's a little guy in Money whose name is Natsune Oki in Japanese Money. So,
Oh,
so people made fun
okay.
of me, like. But anyway, sorry, Talon. I'm interested in what you need to say. Please continue.
Yes. What was I saying before I got distracted? I
So you
apologize.
Yeah, see, even when Karen's not around, she's still controlling the narrative.
By
By giving the attention. What was I saying? I was talking about.
So you pay great respect for people who
Oh.
done things because not because of the status.
That's right. Desai. We were talking about Desai. So yeah, I like to, whenever I approach people in general, and especially at work, I don't see myself, even if I know that I have more training, more skill, more ability, or whatever it is, I don't elevate myself above another person. We're all people. And it kind of goes back to how you're talking about how we're all pieces of shit. And I think that's me using that same mentality. It's like we're all on the level, whether or not we have different skill sets and abilities. And relatively speaking, you might be more valuable in a situation. Everybody has a value. Everybody has a worth that they can put into it. And you're not really much of a person if you just see yourself above other people. There's no reason for you to do that. I don't care if you save the world from aliens. I don't care if you're Superman. You have to understand that you're not better than us. You've just been given, kind of like how in Spider-Man, if I may borrow that, great power comes great responsibility. So you have that responsibility and power. That's on you. That doesn't mean that we have to revere you for you having that power. But if you put in work, if you put in, the time and you prove that, hey, look, I'm not saying that I'm better than you, but I have put in more time than you. I have spent and dedicated into putting myself to this level to where I do know what I'm talking about. So you should respect what I'm saying. That I'm all for it. I love seeing that. But whenever there's this sort of hoity-toity bourgeois assertion that you're better than me because you make more money or because of where you came from or just because you're higher up on the scale, that doesn't float for me. I work in a hospital, and I currently work in food service. I'm moving out into another department, and I'm going to school for respiratory therapy. However, being in arguably the lowest department within the hospital, I come into contact with everybody in every department: surgeons, doctors, inspectors, the actual owners of the hospital.
You're probably one of the more important ones. Just know that.
Well, the thing is no matter whoever I interact with, I treat everybody the same. If you're a doctor or if you're my direct coworker, you get the same kind of greeting, you get the same type of cadence, tonality, pleasantness. Everybody gets treated the same. I might call you doctor, but because I do that is because I recognize the fact that you earned being called doctor. Even if you're actually a shitty person, you earned being called doctor. So I will call you and acknowledge what you've achieved, even though I may not agree with you as a person, because I understand that and think that's really where the core of respect comes from, is being able to recognize each other for what we've done and what we haven't done, but not elevating us one way or the other.
That's really wonderful. I love that. Like, honestly, that's what we need, though. I feel like we're judging for nothing. Like, we're judging each other for, because, there's another word that I heard was kind of nice. It was like, we're all going to die. And that shouldn't be the enough reason for each of us to love each other. But we're still, judging. Like, we're still out here judging each other for nothing. Like, we're all still going to die. Why do we have to judge each other? And that's so wonderful. So everything you said is really, really amazing.
Thank you. I'm glad it resonated.
We all go out the same way, in the dirt.
Exactly. So, Life Up really is about that. Like, I just want, I might not be the perfect, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect at all. Like, I might be I'm, so back to your point, I'm not trying to be this higher person, try to give you advice. No, none of that. I want to show people by action. First of all, I want to inspire people. I want to put in the work. I want to show you that I'm grinding. I want people to see that it's possible to achieve anything you want. And then the second thing I want to say is actually more of like love, just giving out the love, like just we're all gonna die, like let's love each other, like, let's be happy. It doesn't matter like whoever you are, like it just doesn't matter. And I think that also back to the first one, because I think oftentimes why people give up on themselves is when they just can't go any further, because they just don't have love. Like they are such a scarcity, like they don't have anyone who loves them. They can't even love themselves, and that's so sad. So for me, it's kind of like I just want to spread the message to tell you, first of all, like fuck, like life is not that serious, like let's go, like it's okay, you can fuck you can fuck as many times as you need. And
I had another guest on here. Her name was Emily Hess, and her message ultimately was, "Don't be a dick."
It's a great message.
Just don't be a dick. Treat one another with kindness, respect, and everything should flow.
Yeah.
Don't be a Karen. Don't be Karen.
Sorry. Yeah, no, same thing. I have this one story that I often share. Can I share?
Yeah, sure. Of course.
So I'm more about that dog life, right?
Dog life.
Dog life. So if you go to my Facebook and Instagram, it's all about that dogs, right? So
dog life. I thought you said thug life.
Oh, dog life. Wow, I definitely misheard that too. Okay.
Puppies, just animals, okay?
Okay.
So I love animals, and I follow this channel on Facebook. It's called Budu, I think. And this channel
the Dodo. I follow them too. Yeah.
I love that channel. So basically what they do, they show this like journey of abandoned dogs, like being rescued, right? And then finding home. And, when I see it, like, it's so beautiful, because the thing is, like, these dogs, when they are found, like, they're so scared. They're so cynical. They're angry at human. They're like, right? But, like, you really see it. You literally see their transformation. So regardless of how fucked up they get, like they lose hope, they lose inspiration, they lose reason to live. They just don't care if they survive or not, right? And it's such a
love heals all.
Really, like a harsh place to be. But like you said, like, so what can we do is, if you give them unconditional love, they literally come back. Like they actually find the courage to come back to love, and find the courage to love other people. And like that's such a beautiful transformation, right? And I want to do the same for human. I feel like when you are just so disappointed about your life, when you're so damaged, when you are like so cynical, angry at life, I think what we need to do is show them, like, this is difficult feeling to explain, because there's no definition for love, right? Love is something you feel. But I felt that, and part of that really definitely come from like my input, like people that I follow, like people that I have a lot of like a influence of people that I follow, and they give me like a law, like really real stories that really inspired me, like to be who I am today, right? And I want to be spreading the same kind of positive message, where like when you're so fucked up in life, like I want to be there and to be the one to tell you, like, look, it's okay. Like, I want to make sure that you love yourself. Like, don't give up on you, And I think it's very important to do that. And I think I kind of like conflict while I'm saying this, because in my head I also understand the practicality, which is like, this is beautiful, this is ideology, and this is all I care about. That's my life mission. However, I also understand that you just can't be there for everybody at the all time, because right, like
unfortunately you can't.
So sometimes I might be in a position where I do have to turn some people down, because that's practicality of life, right? But my thing is, if I am able to contribute to create foundation for people to stand on, like no matter what kind of rejections or either even compliments, rejection, compliments, failure, anything that you face, they don't matter, like whether that comes from you or anyone else. And I want to add information to that foundation so that people can really stand on their own feet to say like whatever I experience, like in the end of the day, I know how to love myself, you know?
Mm.
Yeah. That's the most important thing.
If I can share a little motto I came up with you, it's kind of it kind of harps on wanting to spread love into the world, and I feel like one of the things that is difficult is trying to figure out how do we do that, how do we spread the love. And I feel like one of the things that's actually kind of generally annoying people is being just very in your face
Spread
and just
the
telling
love,
people,
man.
as opposed to just being an example. I feel like when everybody hears the phrase "be the change you want to see in the world," they think they have to be active beyond just changing themselves. They don't, they kind of just miss the point.
Which
Put
is why
everything
the
that you want to
Capitol
do.
building got stormed. I said it.
And that's
That
really
shit would
kind
have
of
never happened
important.
anywhere else.
It's really important kind of to have that perspective on yourself. And something that I created for myself as a mantra to stay in that zone and pocket was, first of all, be focused. Second of all, be relentless in everything you do. Be relentless, but above all, be loving. So in every single thing that you're doing, whether it's minuscule and pointless, be loving. Taking a left turn, doing something like this, helping somebody in line, just be loving about how you do it. If you're getting items from the store and you realize you don't need something, bring it back. Don't just put it in the chip aisle when you have a can of pickles. Go put it back with the pickles. It's being considerate and just doing those kind of small actions on a regular basis will, one, change your own perspective and how you feel and allow you to actually see more positivity and more love because you're putting it out there. And then also people are going to notice that you're doing it not only just in moments that seem opportunistic, but because it's a part of who you are. You're just loving, you're just caring, you're just understanding, but you're also very much focused on what you're doing. It's not just wanton, just trying to find places to fill void that needs love. Everywhere needs love, but it doesn't mean that it needs your love. So
And
I
for
feel like the
God's
best.
sakes, stop blaming your past circumstances on the reason why you can't give somebody else the love that they need.
That as well. And the main thing is just make sure that you are happy. Make sure that you are full of love and make sure that everything that you do exudes that. And by doing so, people will see that that's what you're doing and that'll make them ask. Because when it comes to things like wisdom and love, you can tell people it all day. You can put it in their face, you can send it to them, text it to them, email them, it doesn't matter. If they're not looking for it and they don't want it, that diamond might as well just be a dead old apple, just a rotten apple, because they will not see
It's
and
just a
understand.
cubic zirconia. At that point,
Right.
it's just a cubic.
It's
It
just
means
garbage.
nothing.
So
Yep.
you got to make sure, just kind of show people it's like, okay, you're not living lavish, you're not acting lavish, but you clearly are. I can feel, I can sense there's something about you that I want, something that I need. And then they're going to understand that's the love. And it's already within them. And that's kind of just how you can tell them. It's like, look, you're looking for something you already have. And you can tell that because I didn't give anything to you. You just saw me be myself. And all I did was just draw within from myself. I think a lot of people think love and happiness comes externally and then they hear that it's internal, but they don't understand how because nobody's acting as an example. And so
And
that's something I try to make a point by being focused, being relentless, and being loving.
well, big acts of love is not always the case either. Just it's the little things that count to make sure the world is going to be on track to where it needs to be. Something as simple as leave a penny, take a penny.
Right? Being considerate, it matters.
Well, Natsune, we want to thank you again for being on, and we want to invite you to our other live show. It's called The Break Room. It gets really wild in there, but it's on Saturdays, and we're on a little longer than we are on The Break Room. right now, we want to give you the floor to let everybody that's watching and everybody that's going to be listening to this on Spotify and iHeartRadio and wherever else they listen to their damn podcasts. Where can we find your stuff? Where your book is on Amazon and your website. What else? Where else can we find you? I know you're hosting a show.
Yeah, well, it's all under the same thing, like educationtv.com. And I'm also on social media, very active on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn and YouTube. So that's where people can find me. And my name is Natsune Oki.
Okay. And again, we want to thank you for coming on tonight. We're gonna reach out to you probably in the next few minutes and give you the information to the break room. Like I said, it's more free form where you can be yourself.
Okay.
You seem like that's what you love to do, is be yourself, nice and straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give a fuck what you say, and we love that shit. So come and join us in on the break room. We'll let you pick the topic that day. But can you say goodnight to all the junkers out there watching?
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for your time. And I really enjoy being here also. So thank you so much for you too. And thank you for having me. And
The pleasure was all ours.
Yeah.
But don't go nowhere just yet. Everybody, have a good night.